Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, depending on where you are joining us from. Thank you for joining us. We certainly appreciate you joining us and welcome to our Open Up Live talk show. My name is Dipchand Ramcharitar, and I'm the Outreach and Development Coordinator at Voice of Men 360. Voice of Men 360 is a non-profit organization founded in 2020 and based in London, Ontario, Canada. Voice of Men 360 was born out of it seeing a tremendous need and stepping up to provide services to help, support, and overcome men and boys' life challenges. We are part of International Men's Day has been serving for over 21 years and so far 90 countries around the world, joined together in doing various activities regularly. International Men's Day follows six pillars, which is the overall well-being of boys and men. We follow in the same footsteps. Why open up? Well, because men do not open their hearts and are willing to share their matters with anyone. When we keep their emotional challenges within themselves for a longer time, at some point they would explode and it will affect their health conditions in many ways. This is why we want to create an open space and allow an individual to share their life journey through our platform. We aim to create awareness about the life challenges, struggles, overcome ups and downs that our boys and men go through in their lives. There are no limitations with gender, age, nationality, or ethnic group in sharing your life journey. All walks of life can participate. Our goal is to make a positive impact on someone's life through this program. Open Up is usually on Sunday at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. Today we have it at 7 p.m. instead. We bring an individual to each show and let them share their life experiences with you. Before I introduce our special guest for today, I would like to go through our disclaimer. We would like to remind you that Voice of Men 360's mission is always delivered with good faith towards peace and peaceful harmony. The views and opinions expressed in today's episodes are those of our speakers and do not necessarily represent Voice of Men 360. Our organization engages in discussion forums to offer inspiration and create awareness of these issues of men who wish to overcome their life challenges. We are not providing medical or therapeutic advice. Should you require that type of assistance, we recommend you contact a medical professional immediately. If you have any questions or concerns about today's episode or any Voice of Men 360 content, please email us at info@voiceofmen360.org. Today's speaker is Hinesh Chauhan. He will be sharing with us a very intriguing story from his background in engineering, economics, and psychology, the military, being a single dad, a wellness coach, to creating a platform, Decent Divorce Dads. Welcome, Hinesh, to Open Up. Thank you for joining us and being willing to share your life journey with us. So to begin with, can you give us a little background of who you are and what you're about?
Yes, thank you for having me. And I, excuse me, I'm also fighting a cold. I'm just getting over it. Thanks very much to my kids. But the Open Up title of your show, it didn't even click on me that the relevance of it and how fitting it is for and how it applies to men. So I like that. A bit about myself. I think, Dipchand, first, thank you for having me. And you gave a bit about myself. I'm a dad. First and foremost, I'm a dad. I have two amazing kids, a 15-year-old son and a 13-year-old daughter. I was, until about a year and a half ago, an executive in the federal government. And about 15 years before now, I was in the military and did some things in between that time with some businesses on the side and some consulting. And less than a year ago, I took a look at what really mattered to me and what I wanted to do, what people came to me for, and what I'm good at, and realized that several parents over the years, or several friends, and then friends of friends, had been approaching me for advice related to divorce, parenting, and relationships over the last 8 years since I experienced my separation in divorce, and realized just how meaningful that was to be able to help other parents and ultimately kids. That's really what it comes down to, is who benefits from this, and it's our children, and therefore their children, and so on. There's a massive knock-on effect.
Okay, well, thank you for sharing. You certainly seem to have your plate full and a busy life, and that's great. First of all, give us some of the incidents that happened in your childhood when you were probably 5, 10, 15, that influenced and inspired you to what you're doing now, like on a professional basis, education-wise, position in life, things like that.
Sure. I'll start with education profession and move into my approach to parenting and who I wanted to be as a parent. Growing up, I was a very curious child. I liked taking things apart. I liked adventure and being curious and learning how things worked, or wanting to learn how things work. That led me into engineering in university. And I did about 3 years of engineering and decided I wanted to try something else. And actually, at that point, I joined the Army on a part-time basis as a combat engineers. And combat engineers get to build bridges, use explosives. They're the ones in the field that are dealing with operations that are working with finding and disarming landmines and improvised explosive devices or booby traps. And their role on the battlefield is to help friendly forces live, move, and fight, and deny the enemy the same. So the work I got to do in that role was really challenging, physically challenging, technically challenging. So it gave me that mental stimulation and that physical stimulation. It was really fun and challenging, and had great peers, and the opportunities for different experiences and to learn really was there, and I could get so much, and I did get so much out of it. And while I was doing that, I decided instead to pursue different studies, because I wanted, when you're reading great literature books and you read about different characters in Dickens or other classics where they're talking about enhancing their minds and their learning, and that large existential crisis being satisfied through post-secondary education. I just didn't feel I was getting that. And then I came across economics. And economics opened up my mind to the world and how things work, how they work, what decisions were made over the years, what influenced politics and society. And I got that satisfaction. So I did a degree in economics and then moved on to a master's in international management or international business. Ultimately, that was the goal, to do an MBA or a master's in management. And then that evolved into getting married, about to deploy overseas again. And my wife at the time was asking me, what's it all about? What's it all for? And then, starting to think like a father or a man or a husband, decided, yeah, you know what, you're right. I should think about what we're doing and what our combined lives are like now. So started looking for different work and entered the public service into a really great fitting role. And that evolved into me overseeing, over the years, large infrastructure projects and initiatives across the country. So again, my entire career was in engineering, despite not being a formal engineer. But if you meet most people, they tend to think I'm an engineer just by the work I've done, or what I can relate to, or how I think. So that was my career in a nutshell. As on the who I became as a parent was based on what I experienced as a child and what I saw, and again, being very curious and having to break things down and apart and wondering why this happened, or it'd be better if this happened. My behaviors based on my parents' style of parenting, what I did and didn't do, really hit home in terms of what shaped me as a parent. And then I did a lot of reading and research on parenting to be able to be a productive, helpful, healthy parent that raised kids that were critical thinkers and resourceful. That's ultimately what I want to do, and raise kids that are decent humans that will contribute to the world and help others. I don't think I took enough of the lessons from my childhood home to pursue the right things in terms of being a good and healthy, strong partner. So that's the difference. And I know for my part what would have contributed to my separation and divorce, and then learning as a single parent how to manage it all, and just paying a lot of attention to every small thing. How do I manage this? How do I manage getting my kids, getting to work, working a full day, coming back, getting them cooking supper, doing homework with them, bathing them, getting them to bed, preparing for the next day, shoveling the snow, cutting the grass, and doing it all over again. So trying to be very engaged with my kids, yet balancing all the other things I needed to do to be a responsible adult and parent, and just kept refining it at the same time, dealing with the mental baggage of what I had throughout my life, along with what was now happening to me inside post-divorce, and sitting with each of those things all the time, every day, and working through it and making notes, taking notes, journaling, rereading it, relearning it, reading books to grow, to evolve, and be able to, again, to me, is focus on my kids, focus on how I parent, and just keep improving that. And so
wow.
when it happened, people witnessed that or noticed that, or I was able to talk about that. And then these conversations grew and more people started to come to me.
Yeah, well, that's certainly an action-packed life. I mean, on the employment or the occupational front, moving from military to economics to management, and then balancing that with marriage, being a parent, and then putting it all together and having some sort of, I guess, retaining your sanity is quite a feat in itself. So plaudits to you for that. Sure. Can you guys give us some of the challenges you faced during your school days, high school days, college, university, etc., particularly as from a gender perspective, from a male student standpoint?
Well, let me talk about maybe the combination of the male student standpoint and the cultural background of being growing up in a really mostly white neighborhood, white school. And what was forced on me at home was really academics, and having to focus on that, because that's really what worked for my dad, for example. In coming to North America, it was his education that paved the way to allow him to live the life that he had and build the life that he created. So there was a huge emphasis on that. The challenge there is you're just different. You're not growing, you don't play hockey, you're not watching these sports, you're not coming to school, and also not talking about the grandparents or the aunts and uncles that visited you on Christmas or any other holidays. So I think that was one very large piece of it. And then as a just as a the as a boy, whether you're trying to date, whether you're trying to play sports, I feel that there's a lot more pressure in trying to be that popular person, or that athlete that can play, or having some sort of identity in those hierarchies of personas in a high school. And I'm not a girl, I'm not a woman. I can speak to as much as they face, or the pressures they face, but as a guy, I feel that that was a challenge. And the need to it's hard to be fallible. You can't, making mistakes is not something that was easily forgiven, whether maybe I take that from my house, or my growing up in my household, and carried that or projected it into other environments. But that was definitely something that I felt carry through in many different facets of my life growing up.
Wow. I can relate in some ways. I've been through some of the same things you have, and certainly as a male, it comes with the territory that you have to bear responsibility, take it on the chin without showing any sign of emotion or anything like that. So I get where you're coming from, and it's great that you've been able to weather the storm throughout. Can you share with us any father-son memories that you have? Your relationship with your dad and
there's lots. there's a mixed bag. My relationship with my dad's been, frankly, has been rocky. There's been several years of my life where I have not spoken with him, and our dynamic has been rocky. Growing up, it was a very authoritative relationship. I was a child that needed to do as they were told without question. You could not argue. You could not push back. It was, you should be jumping before someone asks you to jump. And that's barely an exaggeration. It really was a really strict household. And that creates a divide. And so that was a big teaching moment for me as a parent, was to develop that relationship with your child so that they're not hiding anything and you don't have that divide. So, and I'm talking mostly about my teen years, and I did some dumb things, because I'm not putting any blame on anyone, but when your parents aren't engaged with you and you don't get to do what you want to do, you start lying to do things. And then, of course, you hang it out with the wrong people. And I got in trouble. You get in trouble. Some good wake-up calls, and it straightened me out. And then getting into my post-secondary, my dad's an engineer. He's got a master's in engineering. When I decided I was not going to continue pursuing engineering, it was very frowned upon, to say the least. And there have been ongoing challenges. We're close now. My mom and dad are good grandparents. We get along. They live very nearby. We see each other frequently. But I have learned to be more cautious, because of, after so many times where you get hurt, or hurt, and it's bad enough where you have to withdraw and not speak to that other person for years. There's a bit of a wedge.
Yeah, I can understand. I myself had, again, I can relate in some ways to you, in that my dad was a bit of an authoritarian. And just like you, I do not blame my parents for anything. They had their ways. And what I decided was, there are lots of positives, mm-hmm. and the areas that I won't show off myself. And I thought, when I have my kids, I would change certain things. And that's pretty much it. But I appreciated to this day, actually, what my parents instilled in me. And I've instilled that to some degree to my kids. So I understand where you're coming from. I wanted to also ask you, what was your turning point when it came to developing this platform called Decent Divorce Dads?
I 3 weeks ago, I decided this was going to be my all-in full-time effort, and how it evolved is really interesting. And at that point, I was reverse engineering and looking back over the last year to see how it actually came to this. And what started was I was in a consulting job until the end of March of 2022. And then for April, and the intent was for me to become a self-employed incorporated consultant and work on specific projects that I wanted to work on and avoid the corporate stuff that I just didn't want to deal with anymore, and focus on the subject matter expertise. Excuse me. And then April, I decided this is a chance of a lifetime, and I should really take advantage of where I'm going and what I'm going to do. So I sat back and really thought about a lot. I reached out to many people, had many meaningful conversations, and did some deep thinking about what I mentioned earlier, what am I good at doing? What do people come to me for? And what am I good at? What do people come to me for? And what do I want to do? And realize that the helping others in the domain of divorced dad coaching was meaningful to me. And I started doing that and helping people. And it wasn't something I was making money with yet, but was starting to take up a lot of my time. But it meant a lot to me. And the same way as I volunteer on the board of a charity that supports pregnant teen moms and their kids, and just thinking about why I do what I do and what's meaningful to me, and realizing how much that kid factor is to me, and why I enjoy helping people on both sides. And I kept doing some consulting work, and more people were approaching me for the divorce advice or the parenting advice. And so then the summer goes by, and then in the fall, I start thinking about, you know what, I'm going to start developing a program. So over the summer, I was taking notes. I take a lot of notes all the time. I draw on the windows at home. I've got a massive whiteboard in my office, another one here, scribbles on papers, Evernote, and other things on my phone and computer with all these various notes and thoughts. So I've been developing these, and in fact, I've been developing these over the last several years, and started putting it together in a methodical way. And I started creating a course. So I've developed a course that's broken down into 3 modules, and realized this is what I want to get out there. I need to not only get this out there, but with that thinking, I started thinking, wait a minute, it'd be really nice to start getting it out on social media in bits. At first I thought, you know what, this is all going to be content that's going to be my course, but not probably as in depth, and anyone can get it just off YouTube instead of, say, buying the course. And then at first I was thinking, well, that kind of defeats the purpose for revenue generation. But in the end, I thought, you know what, let me just start doing it. Let me get it out there, because ultimately it's to be able to help people and share what I know has worked, what has been validated by other dads that I've been working with and who I speak with on this topic. So in October, I think I started developing content, and I decided, you know what, I want to make this a quality gig. I want this to not just come off as a higher caliber work, but I want it to look good, so that the content's better absorbed and received. So I hired someone to help me start producing these videos, and he's been wonderful. Company name's Ottawa Brands. He and Dawn, who's turned out to be a great mentor to me as well, has helped me develop this and has fed a lot of input into what I'm developing as well. So that's what's grown. And then by December, I found I was getting insanely overwhelmed with everything I had on my plate. What I was trying to do with Decent Divorced Dads, what I was doing for consulting, what I was doing with a couple of other things that I just had taken on over this last year as I decided to have a yes year and just pursue everything, because it would really only be the one-time opportunity to get to do something like this in my professional life. December comes, January, I'm flailing, just treading water, trying to do everything. And then towards the end, I said, that's it. This is all I'm doing. Divested of everything else, called people that I was developing proposals for or that I was wrapping up a contract with, and ended work there. And now I'm doing nothing but focusing on the Decent Divorced Dads Initiative.
Very good. I think that's an excellent venture. The idea of reaching out to, there are so many people out there that needs a hand, and especially with men, as we've been discussing before, they're very reluctant to open up, and you're reaching out in such a way is fantastic. I wish you the very best. I've been on your YouTube channel, and I'm impressed with what I saw so far. And yes, I will definitely be a subscriber soon.
Thank you.
So moving on, why do you think it's important for men to open up and share? And what would be your message to those men facing some life challenges, ways to cope with moving on with life? We are a bit pressed for time, so a brief answer would suffice. Thank you.
Sure. And this is probably the most important message. I lost my brother to suicide 2 years ago because of how he managed or didn't manage his mental struggles. And he and I went on different paths. He took on more of the victim mentality, and I sought out help, therapy, and have been very open with my challenges. And it's the stigma. Unfortunately, there is that stigma, but we need to just be honest. I'm very honest about all the therapy I have pursued and pursuing, the help I get, the coaching I get, so that I can keep growing. That I have autoimmune diseases because I do not manage my anxiety and stress properly, because I keep it in. That's so important. You will get sick. We have shorter life expectancies because men do not share. Our suicide rate's 4 times higher than women. Our suicide rate as a divorced dad or divorced man is 9 times higher than women. We have a 3 times higher addiction rate. And this is what happens. You need to share. You need to open up. There's so many resources out there that are available. You're not showing weakness. To every man, to every person, every father out there, if you're having any sort of challenges, if you can't reach out to somebody you know, there are helplines, there are crisis lines, there are people, there are community support groups, there are religious houses of religion leaders that you can go and speak with, but find somebody to talk with and open up.
Well, thank you so much for that. I echo your sentiments, and also I want to express my condolences for the tragic situation that obviously occurred with your brother. So,
thank you.
My condolences. Thank you for joining us and sharing your life journey with us today. There are no limitations to gender, age, nationality, or ethnic groups. All walk of life can participate in any of our shows. If you want to be a guest on any of our shows or willing to be part of our organization and help us directly or indirectly, please reach out to us. We would love to work with individuals, professionals, experts, community organizations, associations, corporations, government officials, and businesses. Our phone number is 437-889-8329. Email address info@voiceofmen360.org. You can find us on social media as well, Facebook group /page. Join our group so you can see our daily activities. Please invite your friends as well. Other social media platforms are Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, YouTube, and TikTok. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel, Voice of Men 360. We certainly would want to reach out to more people and help more. Please continue your support. Thank you. You have been listening to and viewing a 30-minute broadcast with Hinesh Chauhan and myself. Hinesh has been a very good entrepreneur and a businessman, dad, you name it, he's done it. And we were excited, and he certainly shared a lot. Hopefully, we can all learn from his presentation. So, Hinesh, again, thank you very much. We certainly appreciate your time on here. And for everybody out there, thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you and goodbye.
Thank you so much for having me, Dipchand.
You're welcome. Have a good evening.
Good night.
Thank you all.